Hello, my name is Catherine Thomas and I work at Holy Trinity Church of England Primary School, where I have been for over 10 years. In my time at the school, and now in my role as head teacher, I have been on an exciting journey using technology in the classroom to enhance learning, transforming children's lives. In 2018 and again in 2021, Holy Trinity was recognised as an Apple Distinguished School, and I'm really excited to be here to tell you our story. When you see photographs of the school, you may, like many before you, think that Holy Trinity is a fee-paying school. However, it is not. Holy Trinity is in Hackney, which is in East London. To paint a picture of the area in which the school is based, here are a few statistics. 49% of the children in our school are eligible for PPG, that's the Pupil Premium Grant. This indicates that they are from deprived backgrounds. 40% of our children have English as an additional language, often speaking a different language at home, and 27% have special educational needs. All of these figures are significantly higher than the national averages. Hackney, where the school is based, ranks in the top 2% of local authorities in England in the indices of multiple deprivation. This includes a high percentage of families without work, and the area has significant proportions of overcrowded households. Dalston, the ward in which Holy Trinity is located, is in the top 5% nationally for employment deprivation. The community continues to experience high levels of crime, with Dalston in the top 3% of deprived areas nationally for crime. Now, Holy Trinity spent many years in a building that was not fit for purpose, shadowed by the high-rise flats around it. This included temporary buildings that we called porter cabins that were well past their sell-by date. On the plus side, having taught a class of 8 and 9-year-olds in one of these buildings, I can tell you that it was fairly easy to convince them that they were experiencing an earthquake, as stomping around the classroom and slamming doors caused the floors, windows and walls to shake. I've never seen them dive under the tables quicker. Luckily, there was a plan in place to move us out. The airspace above the school was sold. We moved out for 2 years to a nearby building that had been converted for purpose, and our preschool and nursery moved into the church over the road from the building site. Fast forward 2 years and what felt like a million boxes later, and now we have this. The whole school community was involved in the design, creating something quite unique with many bespoke teaching spaces. Above the school we have 8 floors of flats, and in the space between the school and the flats we have a double height floor where you will find our playdeck and multi-use games area known as our Mooga. This allows children to access open spaces all year round, many of which have been designed specifically for their age and year group. We reopened back into the new building in September 2016. Our school now comprises of children who age from 6 months to 11 years, some of whom are on site from 8 in the morning until 6 at night. We are a 2-form entry primary school with a nursery and preschool, and we currently cater for over 300 children and 40 members of staff. Everyone is thrilled with the new building, everything we could have asked for and more. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. The children did want to have a water slide fitted to take them down from the 2nd floor back to the ground, but we couldn't quite incorporate that into the design. So now we have these amazing spaces within our school. The environmental barriers have been removed. We have a totally new infrastructure with one-to-one iPad deployment and Mac across the entire school. Facilities that you would normally only see in a secondary school, such as a kitchen for cooking for the children and an art room. So what next? We came up with this simple vision. Every learner empowered, inspired, prepared. We set ourselves a mission to ensure that learners in our school and those leaving us feel empowered, inspired and prepared for the next stage of their life, whatever that may be and whoever they may be. We needed to take learning to the next level. We started by developing a diverse, culture-rich curriculum. This needed to be brought to life with exceptional teaching. You will notice that we focus our vision around learners, not students or children or pupils. That is purposeful, as we believe that we all continue to learn all the time, and we want our staff to feel empowered, inspired and prepared too. This is one of the reasons why we invest heavily in ongoing professional learning. We want every learner to feel empowered, inspired and prepared, and this obviously includes staff at every level. We focus our training around a core set of apps. These are all non-subject specific, allowing everyone to use them across the curriculum in a multitude of ways. They support our productivity, creativity and the essential workflow. All staff can attend training, which is empowering our support staff to lead lessons within class, and they have been inspired to run after-school enrichment clubs following discussions with pupils. Our children love making music and performing plays and capturing content. With the adults trained to facilitate them, they have taken it further, transferring skills from iPad to Mac with apps such as GarageBand and iMovie, taking their digital learning and creativity one step further. Our most impactful training to date are the staff breakfast sessions, and here are just 3 examples. We have found that if you feed them, they will come. These are 30-minute sessions which are hands-on and always have a specific focus. We have found that as they are delivered in the morning, often with caffeine and sugar, that the attendees leave feeling inspired to try out something new that day or at least that week. We now have staff suggesting a range of after-school sessions. So far they've come up with iMovie and ice cream and clips and cocktails. I'll let you know how we get on with those. This was a phased approach from 2014, starting with devices through to the core apps and training to embed the change to a dynamic approach to teaching and learning. When COVID changed the role of schools, my role changed too as I took over as head teacher at Holy Trinity. Staff and children had one-to-one managed iPads, so we were able to get everyone online, teaching and learning from anywhere. Whilst planning or participating in lessons, any time an app was needed, it could be accessed through self-service and downloaded instantly onto iPads. We were better placed than many for what became known as the blended learning approach to teaching, with our iPads managed through Jamf and every member of the school community already set up with Google for Education. This was lucky given that with so many vulnerable children and families, most days we had 60 of our 300 children learning at school and the remaining 240 learning from home. The approach we took was truly blended and from the very start. With children learning at home without the same access to space, resources and people as in school, we needed to change the way that we delivered lessons, how we interacted with content and how we shared understanding. This is when Google really came to the forefront in its use at Holy Trinity and across our Federation schools. Google Classroom was already being used to deliver content, support collaboration of work using Google Docs and slides in school, so we extended its use into homes and then began to think innovatively about how we could expand its use. Alongside the subject-specific Google Classrooms that were already in place for learning, we introduced several new ones. Examples are Wellbeing, which supported mental health, Collective Worship to continue that sense of togetherness whilst we were apart, and Home Reading to share text with children who were otherwise unable to get their hands on books. Google Classroom meant that the children and staff could come together, meet and work, providing that crucial connection and communication they were otherwise missing. It essentially became the classroom that they were currently unable to enter. We also created professional learning spaces to allow for collaboration, access to information and training materials. As the entire world changed around us and things evolved, we did too. We found that the combination of Google and Apple meant that the functionality of Google was supported by the creativeness of Apple. The accessibility features on iPad are incomparable, and the ease at which children can have text read to them are second to none. Children with English as an additional language can have lessons translated for them, and the microphone is used to support our development of oracy across the school. This continues to be crucial, as since returning to school, many children are behind where we would expect them to be with their development of language. Where staff and children became more confident with the tools that they were using, they were creating content using iMovie, Explain Everything, and screen recordings of other apps. The staff recordings allowed children to re-watch and relearn lessons, and the children's recordings provided an insight into their understanding of concepts that they were learning at home. The screen recording feature built into iPad was a game changer when it was introduced several years ago. Not only could you now model concepts for children to watch and re-watch, effectively being the teacher sat next to every child as they learn, but you can also get a look inside their mind as they think. Imagine this. You ask a child to explain their understanding of something, such as dividing fractions. Now on a paper, they will write it down, and possibly give you an example, rubbing out mistakes that you never get to see. But with a screen recording, they can use models to explain, and as it is recording, you will see and hear how their thinking is developing and how they correct their own mistakes. It is so much more powerful. An example is playing on the screen at the moment. Having moved so much online so quickly, we identified that the speed at which staff could find things was actually slowing down. So we did two things. First of all, we used Google Sites to create our own staff portal. This is a one-stop shop to access files, dates, rotas, communications, and of course that all-important and ever-changing COVID risk assessment. I can honestly say I've never written so many of those in my life before. Secondly, we then used Jamf Pro to put a web clip onto the staff iPad so that they could access the staff portal through what looked like an app. All of this allowed for fast, efficient communication and collaboration. Again, these have evolved over time. We now have a premises portal, an online interactive staff handbook, and our most recent addition, the Teaching and Learning portal. This is a space where we can load content, develop the understanding of the curriculum areas, and here we can share best practice, something that is now being reflected across our federation. A close friend and colleague has previously called me the Queen of Google Forms. I love them, and I have seen uses for them in education well before others. We use them with children as an efficient way of gathering pupil voice, as a form of assessment, pre and post teaching to quickly gather data on whether they know more and remember more, and as learning tools. So let me start by introducing you to the Daily Maths Speed Challenge. This was developed when we identified that children had gaps in their automaticity of number facts, how quickly they could rapidly recall that information. As you can see here, the facts are set out for children to learn. As the children move from one level to another, they have additional questions introduced, and on each quiz they are given 3 minutes. No matter what level children are on, they can all participate in the same space but at their own pace. This was in place before COVID, and in fact, one of our first questionnaires to children at home asking how they were getting on with blended learning, of course, using a Google form, one thing that came up again and again was that they wanted to access the daily math speed challenges at home. So of course we gave it to them through Google Classroom. They now have a web clip on their iPads that takes them directly to the quizzes. Now another use for Google Forms came out of the pandemic, as keeping children safe also featured heavily in the roles that we were playing, and that was harder than ever with the children at home. We wanted children to have a quick and easy way of letting us know if they needed help at home, so we pushed out a web clip to their iPads with a link to a Google form that they could easily fill in to ask for support. Thankfully, this was predominantly used for children who needed support in trying to set up routines at home. They found it very hard to get out of bed in the morning when they didn't have to come to school. Our use of Google Forms, of course, does not stop there. While schools were closed, we used them as a form of contact and communication for parents to let us know if they needed support. This is still now in use and allows for parents to share things that they may find difficult to say. It has been incredibly helpful in managing absence, with parents and now staff able to log illness, which has become an increasing burden to manage since the pandemic began. The front office staff, who originally took a while to forgive me for moving them all over to Apple and Google, have learned to love it too, and it is its efficiency and connectiveness that has been particularly useful for them. Now, when we have trips, the office staff generate a Google form for parents to request packed lunches, to let us know if they're able to attend the trips. Because it links directly into Google Sheets and can be set up to email directly to staff members, it makes it all super easy to manage, and there are no mixed or missed messages. The results so far of the journey we have been on are that we are now in a position that this is spreading out to the wider federation. We're communicating, collaborating much more effectively and printing far less. Now, I haven't spoken directly about Google Drive, however that is revolutionary for us, as it has removed the need for the cost of school servers on site and removed the barriers in place for being able to access information at any time of the day and from anywhere in the world. The real-time collaboration has reduced workload as we are able to work on documents together, and really simple things like embedding links into documents means that we are not replicating pieces of work in several places. The use of Google Classroom has reduced printing costs as we're sharing so much more with the children digitally, and the Google Sites is allowing for staff to access files that they would normally print on their iPads instead, meaning that they always have the most up-to-date version, crucial in a school where things are being changed as people are absent or we have events running in the school. The iPad themselves allows our children to have access to a huge range of resources that support their needs, and so linking in with Google Classroom we can create lessons which are bespoke to the learners in front of us, sometimes adapting it in that very moment. Our staff and children are continually developing new skills. They now critique peers' work in a meaningful way, seeing the benefits of learning from one another. They are becoming more confident collaborating, inspiring them to create content that is shared across the community. Here is just one example of this: a digital book written and animated by a group of children. These children found accessing the curriculum incredibly difficult. However, working collaboratively, using the multitude of accessibility features and a range of apps, they were able to publish a book. They moved from reluctant writers to global authors. Here is what one of the children had to say about his experience. I don't like writing because I find spelling hard, and writing also makes my hand hurt. When I use the iPad, I can just speak into the microphone on my headphones, and it puts the words that are in my head straight onto the page. I can't believe how much I'm writing, and I want the world to see how good I really am. It has been an exciting journey so far, and one that continues to evolve and grow, meeting the needs of our ever-changing community. Thank you for listening to our story and for your time.